In this lesson, we're going to learn how to playtest our game, how to change objects while playtesting, and some pitfalls we need to watch out for while we're playtesting our game. So I've just opened up our DT demo level here, and we learned how we could move around our scene view using the variety of options. But inside of Unity, we can actually also play our game. We can do that through these three controllers up here at the top, and through the Game tab. Now if we go to the Game tab, you can see here that if we click and drag, nothing is happening. That's because this is just a preview of what the game main camera is seeing until we hit the play icon. So let's begin by just turning on Maximize on Play in our Game tab and hitting play. And we'll see it takes Unity a second to fire up and compile all our scripts and get everything together to play our game. But in a matter of seconds, we are inside of our game and playing. Now we're using the first-person controller, so all you need to do is mouse move around and use the WASD and spacebar keys to move the character. So now we can run around our level and play test exactly what is going to be the final build of our game. Now if you're done playing the game and you want to go back to your normal view, you can come up here and hit the play icon. Now you can also use the shortcut key Control P, and that will undo or turn off playtesting mode. Now let's take a look at these next two options we have, which is pause and next step. So I'm just going to hit Control P to begin playtesting my game, and I'm just going to take a look at this fire here. Now there are some times in the game when we might want to pause it or stop the action. And to do that, you can hit Control-Shift-P, and that will pause the game, and you'll notice it brings us back to the normal interface. That's because Unity is expecting that we're going to begin changing things, but we'll get to that in a second. So to unpause our game and continue playing, we can either uncheck this button here, go to Edit, Unpause, or Pause, or again hit Control-Shift-P. And now our game will be back, and we will have regained control. Now the last option we have, I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-P so I can access my mouse again, is Step. And this allows us to move forward in our gameplay one frame at a time. So this is letting us see our gameplay at a super slow resolution or a super slow speed. You might be asking yourself, why do I want to see my game at the slowest speed possible? But this is incredibly useful if you need to decode or if you need to debug something that's happening inside of your scene. For example, if the light suddenly disappears on a single frame every 15 frames, it's going to be very difficult to see what is happening unless we can step forward in time to see that event. Now, if you want to see the actual values that are happening inside of our game, all we need to do is select them in our hierarchy or our scene view. So let's jump over to the scene view and take a look at that light. And we can see that this intensity right here is being animated, and we can look at this as we go step by step, so we can actually see the values as they change in our game. And this is an incredibly powerful tool when you're trying to hunt down some little behavior that doesn't happen all the time but only happens on certain frames. By using step forward, we can pause the game and slowly unravel our game scripts and the game state to see exactly what is happening on every game object and every component. Now, finally, we have the ability to actually go in and edit objects. But before we do that, let's unpause, and I'm actually going to uncheck this Maximize on Play. Now, there's one UI feature that you might have run into already, and if you have, and I haven't covered it yet, I apologize, but if you found that one of your screens got maximized, as you can see here, just hit the space bar to unmaximize it. And this is going to happen or maximize whichever panel your mouse or your cursor is currently hovering over. So if you accidentally get your inspector covering your entire screen, hit spacebar to return back to your normal layout. So now that we've got that covered, let's take a look at another feature of playtesting here inside of Unity that's incredibly powerful, and that's the ability to make changes on the fly to anything while we're playing the game. So again, let's just hit play, and let's move over to these lights. And let's say we've been experimenting with these lights and we're not exactly sure how they should look, and we want to see what they look like in-game. What we can do is we can look at whatever object we want to modify, or not look at it, but we probably want to be able to see it, and pause the game. So hit Control-Shift-P to pause. And now we can go in and select that object, either again in the hierarchy or the scene view. So I'm going to select this. And now, inside of our game view, we'd actually make modifications and see them actually be changed in the game pretty much automatically. So this is incredibly powerful, being able to come in and modify your components while actually playing your game. For example, instead of doing just a point light, let's go to our first-person controller, and let's dial down this character motor and dial down movement. And this is what essentially is controlling our movement speeds. So let's unpause the game, and let's just move forward with the W key. And it's a little bit slow, so I'd rather make that faster. Now, in a traditional games pipeline, I'd probably have to go into the code, recompile the code, get my project all back together, and then run the executable, get through the level to make a change. But with Unity, all I need to do is pause the game playtest, change the value, let's say 10, and unpause, Control-Shift-P, and as you can see here, my game is now radically changed. So being able to change these properties on the fly as we're actually playing the game is an incredibly powerful development tool. However, there is one caveat. Any change we make while playing the game is going to be erased when we stop playing the game. So if we hit Control-P to turn off our playtesting session, you'll notice that light changed back to its values and our movement speed changed back to its values. And that's because Unity wants us to be able to experiment but not be able to actually break the game while we're playtesting. So this is very important. If you go in while you're playtesting, I would recommend making only a few changes, remembering them, or better, writing them down, and then stopping the game and making those changes when the game is not being played. The worst thing you can do is hit play, hit pause, Control-Shift-P, jump back to your scene, and start working. Because this icon is blue, it's in the playtesting state. So any change we make here, no matter how long we work on this project, we can work on this for hours at a time and get really far with our project, but as soon as this gets unchecked, or as soon as we close Unity, everything is going to jump back to its original position. So remember, anytime you want to make a permanent change to your game, make sure that play is turned off. So let's take a look at how we would do that again. So I'm going to hit play, jump over, and let's say we want to change this light. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-P to pause, select my light, and make whatever change I want. Let's say I want this kind of at a blue color here. And I'm going to write down that on my point light here, I changed it to blue and an intensity of 1.5. Now I can continue to change things, like going back to my first-person controller here, and let's experiment with the forward speed. So 10 gives us a value that to me seems a little bit too fast for this game. So let's pause the game and experiment. So the normal value is 6, we tried 10, let's try 8. See what that looks like. Again, if we can jump back to our game or just hit Control-Shift-P to unpause, we now have access to that changed state. And I really like where this is going, so I like a max forward speed of 8. Now I can remember about 2 or 3 things, so at this point I always tell myself, okay, we need to stop the game with Control-P, we need to go and change those values, and then we can continue to playtest. Because again, everything we just changed got reset to the pre-play levels. So let's come in here and change our max forward speed to 8, go back to our scene, and change our light exactly how we wanted it. So as you can see here, changing the values in the game is an incredibly powerful way to test various values, not to save them. Anything that changes when we hit play or while this icon is blue is not saved. So playtesting in Unity, incredibly powerful, and as long as we respect the Unity workflow of changing values, writing them down or remembering them, and then unplaying and changing them again, we will be very happy being able to test and modify anything in our game while actually playing the game. So now that we know how to actually playtest our game in Unity, let's go into the next lesson by learning how to import assets and models and how to bring them into our scenes.